Both Mark Udall and Barack Obama have talked about change. They know that young people are going to be the key to this election. So we're on next to Colorado College here, where we've recently become concerned about some of the communications from the county clerk's office to this campus. And to talk about this specifically, I'd like to introduce our the state party's lawyer, Martha Turney.
Thanks, Pat. Specifically, in terms of the communications that the El Paso County Clerk's Office sent to Colorado College, they sent an email attaching a document which told Colorado College students if your parents still claim you on their income tax return and file that return in another state, you are not eligible to register to vote or vote in the state of Colorado. This is a blatant misstatement of the law. It's false and wrongly dissuades CC students from registering to vote in Colorado. The law is clear. The IRS requirements for a person to be counted as a dependent on a taxpayer's return and the voter registration eligibility standards are not the same. A student's tax-dependent status has no bearing on his or her ability to establish residency for voting purposes. In addition to misleading students about their eligibility to vote, this statement misleads students about the potential consequences of registering to vote on their family's tax status. In virtually all cases, registering to vote has no impact on such matters. This misstatement of law aimed at a particular demographic is alarming. It's upsetting that this is coming up in Colorado, but it's even more upsetting that the ability of young people to vote is questioned. I'd like to point out two additional issues that have come to our attention that we'd like to address here today involving the El Paso County Clerk and Recorder's Office. The first is that they have eliminated an early vote location in Fountain. In 2006, there was an early vote location in Fountain. In 2008, there are only 3 early vote locations in the entire county, and the southernmost location is inside the city of Colorado Springs. To put that in perspective, in 2006 there were, as I understand it, 6 early vote locations. That was 57,000 voters per early vote site. And this year there will be 115,000 voters per early vote site. We don't think it's appropriate for there to be, we think it's not appropriate geographic distribution of early voting polling locations, and we call upon the El Paso County Clerk's Office to add an additional voting location south of Colorado Springs and to facilitate the voting of all registered voters in Colorado.
State Senator John Morse, J-O-H-N, M-O-R-S-E. A couple of things here very quickly. I mean, I am most concerned just because of my history with the city of Fountain, with the fact that we don't have an early voting place in Fountain. There's lots of people that live and work and play both in the city of Fountain itself and in the Fountain Valley, and those people really deserve the opportunity to have the convenience of early voting just like the rest of us do. And I'm concerned as well because in the caucuses this year we saw record turnout, and I suspect that both with mail-in ballots as well as with early voting as well as on election day, we're going to see record turnouts, and we need to make sure that we can process all those votes very quickly and efficiently. So shutting down the Fountain Early Voting Center is just something that I don't think is appropriate at this point, and I would call on the county clerk to reopen that office. I am also just overall disappointed. I mean, the county clerk's job is to make sure that everyone that can legally vote gets to vote. And for some reason, our county clerk is focused on making sure people can't vote. And I just don't think that's appropriate. You know, every single case of fraud that he thinks he sees should absolutely be referred to the district attorney's office for prosecution. But the county clerk isn't qualified or authorized to determine fraud. That's authorized and determined by the office of the district attorney. So if you've got 12 cases, cool, get them to the district attorney, let them do an investigation, and then they can decide whether or not there's quote-unquote fraud, which can then be prosecuted for each of the individuals that's involved. But more than likely, it's mistake that's been made as opposed to fraud. Hopefully that's the same situation with the clerk's office issuing information to the CC students that they were not allowed to register in Colorado. I'm hoping that was just a mistake that can be corrected, and we're not calling that fraud. And so for somebody to turn in a mistaken voter registration form and for him to immediately count that as fraud, it's, again, until it goes to the district attorney's office, it's not fraud. So please, Mr. County Clerk, make sure.
I'd like to introduce you Jen Slaughter, who's the local campus organizer for the Campaign for Change.
I think it's really important to realize that Colorado College is part of the Colorado Springs community. The students here, we live here, we work here, we study here, we volunteer here, we're involved with the community here, and it's incredibly important that we get our voice heard here. This is where we're registering, this is where we want to vote, and we need to be allowed to vote here. We're continuing trying to register kids. I think a lot of people have been told that they can't or they shouldn't, and you know, that's why we're here today, to let them know that that's not true. And we don't have that much time left, but there's a lot of work to do. And yes, we can, absolutely. Thank you.
The voter registration deadline is October 6th. So if students didn't know or have been refraining from registering, they may still have an opportunity to do that, but the time is running short.
And in follow-up as well to the statement by the clerk's office, I mean, I too am glad to realize that he understands that he's made a mistake and he's doing the best he can to rectify it. That's a very good thing, but that doesn't move us towards reopening the early voting in Fountain. And we also need to stay focused on, if there's a backlog of 21,000 voter registrations, every one of those needs to be done in time so that those people can vote early as well. So, you know, there's still lots of work to do, so he's addressed one of the three things here, which hopefully was just a mistake and not anything more insidious than that. We'll give him credit for that. But what about the rest of this stuff? He needs to make sure that he's focused on ensuring people can vote. That's what he's voted in to do.
And it does happen to, you know, I think some people are concerned that there might be political inferences involved in this, but our main thing today is to say that we need to make sure everybody has the right to vote and the opportunity to vote. That's the most important thing to us. So if the county clerk's office can turn around and ensure that folks in Fountain have a voting place and students on the campuses. The other thing we don't know is, was this letter, same letter sent to the University of Colorado here in Colorado Springs, was it sent to the Air Force Academy, or was this campus alone targeted? And that's a question for you to ask, not us, but I think it's a pertinent question. Where did these rules go to besides Colorado College?